Good afternoon, Cape Town, and welcome to this afternoon's Hangout on Air. Before we get started, just a few matters. Firstly, you will hear me. I cannot hear you. Secondly, please have a notepad and pen ready to write down any questions that you might have on the subject matter that we will be dealing with today. Also, after the Hangout, please email any questions you have to me at rbwilliams@everitt.co.za, and I will be able to answer those questions for you. Let's get straight into the topic that we're going to deal with today. As I'm sure you are aware, professional agents use data very effectively to advise and guide their clients. Today, we are going to take a serious look at a critical intervention using data, namely the Market Value Report, sometimes known as a CMA. We might well ask, what is a Market Value Report? Now, before we get into that matter, let's just look at what it is not. It certainly is not a Lightstone or an SAPTG list of sold properties, which many agents, of course, use and call a CMA, thus deluding the consumer. It is also not a CMA info, so-called CMA. What is the big difference? Firstly, it is a powerful and critical tool that professional agents must use to address one of the major problems in real estate, namely overpricing by sellers. This comparative analysis or market value report compares the seller's property to similar properties in three categories, which the other Lightstone and SAPTG reports and CMA info do not do completely. The three categories are properties that are for sale. That is the seller's competition. And although most sellers do not believe that they have any competition, it is our job to ensure that they become aware that they do have serious competition in the marketplace. The second degree of properties are the failed to sell properties. And as you and I well know, most properties fail to sell because they are overpriced. And therefore, it is essential that we discuss these with the seller as well, so as to show him what he is not to do. The third category of properties in a proper CMA are the recently solds. And they are most probably the best indicator of what the seller's property will sell for in the current market. Notice that it is vitally important again to emphasize the word similar properties, so that one in a CMA cannot use properties which are very, very dissimilar to your client's property. Also, in the sold category in a really good CMA, there's provision for adjustments to be made by you, the agent, and there's also a saleability rating of the seller's property. And this is a very valuable tool in helping you to get the seller to help you to get the price right. And we'll look at how we do that a little later on. I want you to realize today that because of the scale of the problem of overpricing, the market value report is your opportunity to truly distinguish yourself from other agents as a professional. Now let's take a closer look at this phenomenon of overpricing. It is endemic in our industry that sellers overprice their property. And this is predominantly driven by 5 factors, namely, agents not addressing this matter professionally. Another one, seller greed. Thirdly, sellers trying to finance their next purchase from this sale. Fourthly, sellers having insufficient knowledge of the market that they're in. And fifthly, sellers seeing properties advertised at incorrect prices. Because many times when a property is sold, either on the web or in the local press, A sold sticker is put onto the property, but the price is not changed. And therefore, sellers actually think that those people achieved those prices when they did not. This phenomenon of overpricing is also the major reason why many agents are not as successful as they should be. Secondly, work a lot harder on a property than they should. Thirdly, often suffer from cash flow problems. Fourthly, suffer more frustration than they should. Do not get too many sold mandates. Agents also get a poor reputation from overpriced properties. And lastly, agents achieve lower commission percentages when properties are overpriced. Sellers must also be aware that there are negatives of overpricing for them. And those negatives are their property helps sell the opposition competing properties instead of selling itself. The property is seen as being overpriced due to buyer comparison, because buyers buy by comparison and elimination. And if the property is overpriced, buyers eliminate it. Thirdly, the property might not sell at all. Also, the property takes longer to sell if it does sell eventually. Fifthly, the seller misses the window of opportunity. And what is this window of opportunity? You and I know that when a property comes on the market new, there is immediate interest from buyers. And so the bulk of the buyers will come through that property in the first 3 to 4 weeks. And then the buyers start going away. As many of us have learned, when you sit at show days, and less buyers come to the show days. To be correctly priced in those first 3 weeks to a month is critical, as when the buyers are arriving, most of them arrive at that time. The property gets a bad reputation amongst buyers because if a property stays on the market too long, we all know that buyers even eventually start thinking there must be something wrong with the property because they're seeing other properties selling and this one isn't. The property does not attract multiple offers, as do very well priced properties. The property mostly sells for under market value because over time the market penalizes people for overpricing, and they land up accepting an offer which was less than the market value which you indicated to them in your market value report. It also attracts non-serious buyers and time wasters. And lastly, the seller's movable timetable is seriously disrupted. If we look at the benefits of this market value report for you, the agent, this is serious, people. You get the property correctly priced sooner or at the outset, resulting in more sales. Your properties sell in the shortest possible time. Your cash flow is vastly improved. You experience much less frustration of marketing a property for an extended period. You get more sold mandates due to your impressive area knowledge. Your confidence soars and your market share grows. Your commission percentage achieved improves. Getting the property priced right also reduces the incidence of horse trading. And lastly, you become the area expert. And we all want an expert. We need to look at a further phenomenon, and that is agent key management numbers. The following agent key management numbers are also substantially enhanced, namely your sales rate becoming impressive. Now, what is your sales rate? Your sales rate is the percentage of your sold mandates which sell. In other words, out of 10 sold mandates which you get, what percentage actually sell. You can achieve with good market value reports a sales rate of between 90 and 95%, if not more. Your listing price to selling price ratio, equally so. That is the percentage of the asking price which you achieve. And there your figure can go to 97% plus. Your average days on market improves dramatically since your properties sell in a shorter space of time. And your improved percentage of income from sole mandates gives you control. You can achieve 90 to 95% of your income coming from sole mandates, which means you're in control of your business and you're not gambling with your future on open mandates. These numbers must be used to differentiate yourself from other agents. And therefore, it is important and critical that you as an agent start measuring your numbers so that you can raise your professional discussion with a seller to a whole new level when sharing your key management numbers with them and asking them to check other agents' numbers if they intend seeing other agents. There are, of course, also significant benefits of a market value report for a seller. And those are that the seller gets the highest market price because he can beat his competition if priced correctly. It encourages good offers because good offers come on well-priced properties. His property sells in the shortest time because his property is perceived as the best value. Fourthly, the seller has the best chance of selling since banks find value when financing is required. Fifthly, the seller's property does not get a bad reputation from overpricing and being on the market for an extended period. Another benefit is that market-related pricing creates competition, which can get the seller multiple offers and can increase the selling price. It decreases the incidence of protracted negotiations, and it attracts serious buyers, not time wasters. In South Africa, we don't often show market value reports to purchasers. However, if you were a purchaser, I would have no doubt, knowing what you know today, that you would ask the agent whose house you are viewing whether they have done a market value report on that property. And the benefits for the purchaser are that the purchaser can purchase the best value for money property in the area at the moment. The purchaser's time is not wasted looking at many properties. Thirdly, the banks will more easily find value for financing for the purchaser. And the market value report justifies the buyer's good offer price to the seller. In order to do a market value report, however, an agent must have an exceptional knowledge of the properties in the area. And those properties are the ones that are for sale, that expired or failed to sell, and that sold. At this point, I want you to put your cap on as a seller and say to yourself, if an agent came to see you, isn't it a no-brainer that that agent should have an exceptionally good knowledge of the properties and the market in his area and be able to discuss those properties in detail? Therefore, it's important that an agent must know the following and more about these properties: the accommodation, beds, baths, lounges, studies, etc., etc., amenities such as pools, tennis courts, finishes in the property and the condition of the property, stand size in square meters, size of improvements, municipal rates, In the case of sectional title levies and special levies, conduct and management rules, also in estates, homeowners association rules, and any other hidden features in these properties. Now, before we go and do an actual market value report, I just want to mention that as a basis, you must know the properties in your area very, very well. Because when you sit with a seller, you don't want to be caught lacking knowledge on those properties. Sellers are expecting you to be able to discuss other properties which are similar to theirs. And it's interesting that in our service guarantee that we give, the first item we say is we'll help them to price the house correctly. Now, we didn't decide this. In a survey that we did, the consumer said to us that that is the first priorities, that the agent must be able to help them with the pricing of their property. Also, as far as the market value report is concerned, remember that your office has a login code, which you can get from your principal or admin person for cyber agent in order to use this system. Also, just a word of caution, please do not include a property in your market value report that you have not seen yourself. There are easier ways to commit suicide. Rather just slit your wrists and bleed to death gracefully. I'm now going to go across and let us do an actual CMA. Now, the place that we need to go to is the Chas Everitt website at www.chaseveritt.co.za. And there you will see on the right-hand side a little tab at the top which says Agents Only. And when you put your cursor on there, there's a drop-down list. And the first item you need to go to there is Chas Everitt Cyber Agent. You'll get to a screen which looks like this. And this is where you need your office login code, the username, and the password. You will then arrive at a screen which looks like this. Now, the first place that you need to go to here is this point at the top there called SAPTG, which stands for South African Property Transfer Guide. And you would click on SAPTG. And once you've done that, you arrive at this screen. And on this screen, in this gray area down here, you'll see the first item there says Search Deeds Property. So you click on Search Deeds Property, okay? And what you would do is you'd first choose your region here that you're in. If you guys are doing it down there, you would use the Western Cape region. Then you'd put in the city that you need to be in. I'm doing Johannesburg, so I'm going to put JOH there. When it brings it up in caps, you know it's found it, and you click on it. The suburb that I'm going to be doing it in is Northcliffe, and it brings it up there, and I click on Northcliffe. The street that the property is in that I went to this morning is Senior Drive, and when I click that and it comes up in caps, it says it's found it, it's correct. Then I go down to this search button over here, and I click on Search. And the moment the screen flashes like that, you will know to go down, and you will see here it says it's found 90 properties. So there are 90 properties in Senior Drive, and here they are listed. So I'm going to go down, and I'm going to look for my property that I went to this morning. So I go all the way down here, and I see that there's number 133 Senior Drive. And that's where I was this morning. So I click on number 133, Senior Drive, and it brings the property up. Now, at this point, remember, I've always said to agents when they start off new in this industry, and experienced agents should do this all the time, is the new agent must get out into the market and must visit the properties that are for sale at the moment in their market, that failed to sell recently or expired, as we call them, and then those which sold recently in the area. Get to those properties. When the agent is there, they should try and get access. And I always like to say to people that I'm doing research for a client of mine, and I see that their property is for sale or expired or sold. Would they mind if I take a look? And 9 out of 10 times they invite me in. I then complete a listing form on that property. And as I do this every day, when I come back to the office, I come into the system just as I've done now. I go and search for that property that I was at today, and I will find the property, and then I will go to this tab here, which is called Custom Data. And when I click on Custom Data, it allows me now to fill in the bedrooms, the bathrooms, the garages, the finishes, all sorts of stuff that I fill in on the property, roof tiles, all this kind of stuff. It's also very important that I fill in the estimated land value of that property. And if you're not sure what it is, speak to a good valuer in your area and ask him for a price per square meter of stands in your area. And then when you know the stand size, you can multiply it by the rands per square meter to come to a value. What you also need to do here is select who the agent is going to be. So you would click and your list would come on here, and you would go down the list and you would say, right, the agent is Debbie Ross. And that would be yourself. Here on the list status side, always just keep it as not listed because it's not listed as yet. So keep that as not listed. There's another status on this side. And there's also a drop-down list if you click there where my little arrow is. And I always choose the subject property because this property, my property, is the subject of the research. So I leave it as a subject property. It also allows you to fill in the house size under roof. If there's a covered patio, I put that size in. If there are any alterations or stuff and extensions that were done, I could fill it in there. I fill in garages there, and then it gives me a total over there. That is the square meters under roof of the property. I also would click there, and the minute I click on that button, it'll give me the land size per square meter because that comes from the deeds office. Now, while we are there, people, you will notice that on the previous screen, when I went there, it said data, yes. Some properties had data, some properties said data, no. I always choose properties with data because that means the properties that I've put the bedrooms and the bathrooms and the finishes into. Where it says data, no, it means you haven't put in the bedrooms and bathrooms, it's only deeds office data. So what we would do now is the minute I've found this, I'm going to go now to this over here, and that's my CMA button, and I'm going to click on the CMA button. And now there my property is 133 Senior Drive, 1.2 million stand value, 420 square meters under roof, stand size that, bedrooms, bathrooms, lounges, pools, etc., etc. Now you will know there are a couple of tabs over here. There's competing properties. Those are the ones which are the seller's competition. There are the failed to sell properties. There's a tab for them. There's a tab for the sold properties that sold recently. This compare sold section we'll look at just now because that allows you to make adjustments to the sold property so that they compare with your subject property. There's the saleability rating, which we'll deal with in a moment. And the final tab allows you now to go in and to prepare the CMA. So what I'm going to do here now first is I'm sitting here and I'm saying to myself, right, which properties that I've been to are similar and they are on the market at the moment for sale and similar to my property. And I'm thinking, which are they? I always go down to this little section here, which says properties for sale, only properties with data. So I know that those are the properties whose data I filled in. So I say, hang on, I know that one of the properties was 210, sorry, I'm putting it in the wrong place, is Mimosa Road. And I'm putting in the number as 210. And I say, that property is similar to mine. Find it for me. And I look there, there's 210A Mimosa. So I click on that. I just go down and I say, add properties to the selection. Immediately, it puts that property in there. Now I sit and I say, right, outside of Mimosa, which other property is similar to mine? And I say, I know there's a property at number 13 South Bend. I put in number 13 South Bend. I load it. It finds it. I click on it and I say, add it to the top. And it's done so. I go back down again and I say, is there perhaps another property which is similar to mine, which is for sale? And I say, yes, I know the property at Highcliffe, number 57, is similar to mine. So I say, find it for me. I say, there it is. I go down and I say, add the property. So now I say, right, I'm happy that I've got sufficient of a sample here. It's very difficult to have a sample of one property only in each category because then your CMA starts to lack credibility. I'd like 3 to 4 properties that are for sale. The next tab I go to is the fail to sells. And I say, now, which properties similar to mine failed to sell? And I know that Frederick is one, and it's number 98. I say, find it for me. It finds it, and I say, right, there it is. And it's added Frederick to my list. Which other property which failed to sell is similar to mine and has gone off the market recently? Okay, and I go and I say it is Cliffside, and it is Cliffside number 19. And I load the property, I find it there, and I say add it to the top. Okay, and it's added it to the top. I'd like to have at least, say, 2 expireds to show the seller what he must not do. The next group I go to are my solds. And the process now becomes very simple because I'm saying to myself, which property is similar to mine? And I say that sold recently, and I say Cedar number 130, sold. Find it for me, please. It's found it, okay? And I say, add the property to my selection. And it's added it. I go, and the next one, which is similar to mine, which sold, is number Washington, number 2. And I say, load it for me. Okay, and it finds Washington number 2 for me there. Okay, and I say, add properties. And it's added Washington. And then I say, right, the last one, which is similar to mine, which sold, is again Mimosa. and the number is number 175. So find that for me. It finds it. I add it to the top. Now I'm happy. I'm happy that I've got my 3 competing properties. I'm happy that I've got my 2 failed to sells. And I'm happy that I've got my 3 solds. Please remember, people, that this is critical, that you have chosen similar properties, because otherwise your adjustment section becomes very difficult. And that's the next section which we're going to look at. So now I go to the compare solds. Okay. And what I've got to now do is I've got to take a look and say to myself, right, I've got to make these properties which sold like mine. We must understand I'm making these properties which sold like mine. So if I go now, you'll notice here under sold price, it has not filled in a sold price yet. And it's got 3 little buttons there. Now I keep my life very simple. Properties that are for sale and properties that expired. The previous 2 categories, I deal with price only. Then I click the price button. However, if I'm dealing with sold properties, which I am dealing with now, then I fill in the last sold price. So now I'm going to say, right, these properties which sold for the first one for that, the second one's last sold price was this, and the third one's last sold price was that. Now we will automatically notice it's filled in the different land values. It's already in the background used a formula to make an adjustment for the square meterage and the difference in the sizes of the square meterage of the properties. It's also made an adjustment for the difference in land value of those properties. You'll see it hasn't made any other adjustments. So if I just come down to the offer to the bottom now, it's saying to me that this one, it estimated, should sell for about 4.05. This one for 4.07. This one for 4.19. Okay? So now I look at myself, if I compare them to mine. But now I'm looking and I'm saying, hang on, let's take a look at this. Let's say, for example, that this property over here, this one which sold, okay, had a better pool than mine. They'd reganited their pool and done the whole thing. My pool is still a little bit old. And let's say that the reganiting of their pool cost them 70,000 Rand. Now, I'm not going to take 70,000 Rand as the new value of ganiting. I'm going to look at approximately half that value. And I'm saying, right, if they had a better pool than mine, if they had a less good pool than mine, their property, the one which sold, would have sold for less. So I've got to subtract here. So I'm going to take half of the 70,000 and I'm going to subtract 35,000 and I hit my tab key. The minute I do that, the price is adjusted down here at the bottom. Okay? Let's say, for example, that this property which sold had a borehole. My property has not got a borehole. So I'm saying if this property which sold didn't have a borehole like mine, it would have sold for less. Now I'm saying, let's say the borehole cost 100,000 Rand. I'm going to now subtract 50,000 Rand. And the minute I do that, the price at the bottom adjusts automatically. Okay? So I can keep going through. I can say that this property over here, which sold for that price, it had a sprinkler system in the garden, which cost 60,000 Rand. Mine does not have a sprinkler system in the garden. So I'm going to go there again, and I'm going to say if it had sold without a sprinkler system, I'm going to subtract half of the 60,000, which is 30,000. And it immediately adjusts the price at the bottom. Okay? However, what I could say is that my property, say, has got 3 garages, and their property only has 2 garages. I'll say, more or less, what is the cost of an extra garage? Say the extra cost of a garage is, and I'm just guessing here, is 120,000 Rand. Don't forget now, mine has got the 3 garages. This one hasn't. So I'm saying if this one had 3 garages, it would have sold for more. I'm going to now add on 60,000 and I hit tab. So then it adjusts the price down at the bottom here again. So again, to come back to the convention, if my property is better than this one, then I add on to the sold property. If the sold property is better than my one in a specific category, then I subtract, and I only subtract half the value. What this actually means, though, and it's quite onerous, is that you must start speaking to builders who can give you prices on, for example, a kitchen. Let's say one property's got a kitchen, new kitchen with genuine cherrywood cupboards in it. Another property has got a kitchen with cherrywood veneer cupboards in. What would the difference in cost be? So that you can start to get to know these things. It's valuable to have that kind of information when you talk to people. Let's just assume here, for an example, that this property here was newly carpeted. When it sold, mine is not newly carpeted, and let's say the carpets cost them, again, say 150,000 Rand. I would go in here and I would say minus 75,000 Rand, okay, and it would adjust immediately. Notice here on this side that there are certain blocks here that have got little lines around them. Those blocks you can type in. That's why I could type in, say, a borehole, or I could type in a tennis court if I needed to. So those 4 fields allow you to put in additional stuff if you need to put in additional stuff. But at the end of the day, you're going to take a look at this and you're going to say to yourself, am I happy with this? What this is saying to me is that if we get those purchasers that walk in and they fall head over heels in love with the house, they're going to pay about 4.1 million or just over that for the property. If we're looking at the good solid average buyer in the market, okay, he's going to most probably pay around the 4 million mark. And on the low side, we're looking at about 3.9 million. So are we happy with this? If you say, yes, I'm feeling comfortable with this, then you go and you hit the save button. Okay? And when you've saved that, you now go to the top and then you go to your saleability rating. Now I ask myself, I said, right, when I spoke to this seller originally, when I went to the property, what was his indication? What kind of price was he wanting? And he said to me that he's wanting 5 million. And I said, hang on, that sounds like more than 11% overpriced. So I'm going to give him 11% plus overpriced, which means he scores 0 points. Secondly, I ask myself, what is the age or condition of this property? What is it like? And I say, no, the condition of the property is reasonably good. It needs a little bit of work here and there, but not much. So I'll score him 2 points as average. What is the days on market of the competition? In other words, am I in a very slow market or am I in a reasonably fast moving market? So no, the market's average. It's between 91 and 119 days that properties are selling in this area. So I will give him 2 points. The next question I ask myself is there competition for this property in the area? Because if the competition is high, it's not a good for me. But I'll say, no, the competition is average. So I'm going to give him 1 point. Then I look at this house and I say, what's the functionality of this house? Does it flow nicely? Is it nicely designed? or is it a little bit of a mishmash? So I'll say, no, the design is fairly good. It's average. Okay. The market area location. Is this a primary area? Is it a secondary area? Or is it really out in the sticks? And I'll say, no, Northcliffe is a primary area. I haven't got a problem with that, so I'll score him 2 points. Quality of finance terms. What does this mean? This means, are banks going to lend in this area? Do they lend well? Do they not? Where are we? I'll say, no, Northcliffe's a good area. The banks lend easily in this area. Is this in a saleable location? Or is there a squatter camp next door? Or whatever other situation that is undesirable, like a power station or something like that? And I'll say, no, it is in a saleable location. That's fine. Is it in a saleable price range for the area? And I'll say, yes, it's in an average price range for the area. What is the seller's motivation? Well, when I saw the seller, he did the famous, I'm not in a hurry. So when he told me that, I give him 1 point because his motivation is low. That can change later on. Then we come to show houses. Is he going to allow me show houses? And he indicated, yes, that he would give me some show houses. So I'm going to give him 1 point there. This condition of the garden of the property, how is it? Is it good? Is it not good? So I'll say, no, the condition of the property is not, of the garden is not bad. It's reasonably good. If we look at the terms of the mandate, is he going to give me 180 days, 120 days, or 90 days? Well, he'd better give me 90 days, so I'm giving him 1 point for that. Is there easy access for viewing? I'll say to him, yes, there is reasonably easy access for viewing. Okay. Is he going to allow a for sale sign? No, he said to me he doesn't want a for sale sign outside his property. Or it might be a development or an estate where they don't allow signage. Okay. Is there immediate occupation? When I say immediate, I mean within a reasonable period of time. And I say, yes, there is. Okay. And are there any other marketing restrictions? So I'll say, well, there is a bit of a problem. He's got a tenant in the property, and this tenant is a little bit difficult. He's not playing together too well. Okay, so I'm going to say, yes, there are some marketing restrictions there. So if I look at this now, I say, right, he scored 22 points. Now it says there below 23 points, he's got a poor chance of selling. 24 to 30 points, he's got an average chance of selling. And 31 to 40 points, he's got a good chance of selling. Now, if we look at this, and if I go and see him, and don't forget, I'm going to say to him, Jonathan, when I go and see him with the CMA now, I'm going to say to him, look, what's going to happen now is I'm going to bring buyers through on a view by appointment basis. And then, not this weekend, the following weekend, we're going to have our first show day. That Monday evening after the show day, I need to sit down with you, because then we would, in the interim, have had a very good sample of the market through your property. And it's only wise as a business decision, because the market is buying your property, I'm not buying it, to listen to the market. So can we have an appointment for that Monday evening after the show day? Now, when I get to him, I'm going to have a discussion with him. And I know immediately, what can he change? Okay? Can he give me a better price if he hasn't given me a better price right at the outset? Sure he can. If he gives me 6 to 10% overpriced, I can give him 2 points. Okay? If he repaints the garage door and the garage wall, etc., I might say to him, hang on, the condition of the property has improved. Okay? And where are we going with this? He can score more points in terms of the condition of the property. Okay? Where are we going with that? So I can say, right, now he goes to 3. I can give him 3 points. All right. Can his motivation improve in terms of his urgency is high? Okay. And don't forget, if it's death, divorce, departure, debt, or desperate, take the property even at a higher price, because he's most probably going to have to listen to you. All right. So you must determine then his prime motivation for selling. Is it price or is it time? Okay. And if his motivation improves, I can give him 3 points. And so people, he can get to 27 points. If he gives me some other stuff here, which he can change, he might be able to get to the 31 to 40 point mark. Okay. So let's say I'm happy. Let's say he did score the 27 points. I say save, and then I go to the top and I say, right, who is this document being prepared for? And I'll say this document is being prepared for Mr. Andre Villiers. Okay, and it's being prepared by, let me go down here, and it's being prepared by Debbie Roz. Okay, the date is today, which is the 8th. Okay, I have gone and I've uploaded a picture of the property into here, because if you go and you do click on upload picture, it will take you and say add pictures. You will go to where your pictures of your properties are on your laptop or on your desktop, and you will select a property there and you will upload it, and then it will put the property in. So now I go and I say, right, I'm saving this CMA. That dialog box comes up. I just say close the dialog box, and then I say generate the CMA. Okay, and you'll see it says there straight away requested. So now it's requesting this CMA, or market value report. And when I click refresh, it says to me it's already on page 4. When I click refresh there, it says it's on page 8. And I click refresh again, and it says it's completed. Now I can go and I can click on it, and I can say I want to view this document. And you will see that it will now start loading the document. And I'm just waiting for Cyber Agent. And there my document is. So let's take a look at it. There the photo, that's the front page of the document. It's prepared for Mr. Andre de Villiers, property located at 133 Senior Drive, prepared by Debbie Ross with her contact particulars there. Okay. Then there's the introductory letter from Andre de Villiers to the client. This letter is already in there, so you don't have to worry about it and type it up. All you have to do is sign it. There's the Chas Everitt story, and tells them about Chas Everitt and our history as a company. Then we get to the actual analysis itself. And here it shows you my subject property, which is the 133 Senior Drive. Here are the competing properties which I selected. These are the properties which failed to sell, which I selected. And here are the properties which sold, which I selected. We then start honing in on the competing properties. And notice it gives you the most competitive property price-wise is number 210A Mimosa Road at 9,479 Rand a square meter. The least competitive of those 3 properties is 13 South Bend at 11,000 Rand a square meter. And the average of those 3 over there is 10,160 Rand a square meter. And then it pulls in the graph of the most competitive in rands per square meter, the least competitive in rands per square meter, and the average. We then get down to fail to sells. And the fail to sells, it does the same. It takes out the most competitive, which is 98 Frederick at 10,204, the least competitive at 18 Cliffside at 11,395, with an average of those three at 10,800. We can most probably see straight away here, if you're looking at that pricing over there compared to the pricing on the properties that are for sale, if we're looking at that, I think of these competing properties, that's the one which most probably will sell, is the 210A Mimosa. This one might even expire unsold because its price is even higher than these over here. And it pulls that graph in then as well. And then it homes in on the solds. And it brings in the solds, and it says there, the most competitive 130 Cedar at 9,231 per square meter. The most competitive is least competitive 175 Mimosa at 9,500. So now it pulls that graph in. And if you really do a good CMA, people, you will see that the format is, that is the highest, is the green one. That is the lowest, which is the red one. And that one could be in between there. It could even be up here because those are the on the markets, and it might only land up in the expired category there if they don't adjust that price to get it to land up in this category. So that would be a good CMA. Here you deal with your adjustments, and here you really have to know what you're talking about when you speak to your client. Okay? And again, when I'm sitting with him and I'm presenting this to him, I'm going to say to him that if we get that purple patch buyer that walks in and falls head over heels in love with the property, they're going to pay about 4.1 or just over 4.1. The average buyer is going to pay about 4 to 4.05, and on the low, we're looking at about 3.9, 3.95, somewhere around there. And then, people, it's absolutely critical that you then put your arrow there or your pen there if you're sitting with a client, and you say the following to him: Mr. Seller, now show me where you would like to price your home to get it sold. And you keep quiet after that, because now the ball is in his court and he must speak. Many times, of course, his property isn't even on the same page. It is somewhere over here. Okay? But it's your decision as to whether you're going to take that property on, depending on his prime motivation for selling. If his prime motivation for selling is time, which is usually the death, divorce, departure, debt, and desperate ones, then you can take it on. But think carefully before you just take on any property, because it can give you a bad reputation. And then finally, when you have decided and he together have decided on a price that you're going into the market at, then you can get to your saleability rating. You can show him this. You might want to come here and then go back to that over there and discuss this with him. But I like using this when I go back on the Monday after the show day. So then he's got to help me to improve the scoring of the property. He's got to tell me how to get his property, his price right. He's got to tell me, because notice the red is the maximum points that he could get, and the green are the points that he has got at the moment. So all those areas over here are areas where he can improve the property. And lastly, we ended off with our service guarantee to the client. So people, that in question is the CMA and the true value to a professional agent of a document like this. Now, I don't mind if you are using your own system. If you are using your own system for a CMA and you are not using the cyber agent system, please ensure that your system caters for the pages that are in this CMA system, so that it has got competing properties in. It has got properties which fail to sell in. It has got sold properties in. Okay? It must have those categories in for starters. All right. It most probably needs a saleability rating in it where he can score. You can set that up in Excel if you want to. I don't mind. But see that you give him a professional market value report, or CMA. Do not show him a list of sold properties, which you've got from Lightstone or from SAPTG or even from CMA Info. So folks, I wish you all the very best when it comes to being successful in using this tool. You will find your results will improve dramatically, and your enhanced image as the expert in the area will blow people away, and more business will be coming your way via referral.